Welcome back to the Overcast Podcast, UBC Cricket Club's very own podcast. We're back after a while, and with me again is Eshaan. How are you doing, Eshaan?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. It's summertime right now. It's getting really hot in Vancouver. But today's podcast is a bit unique. We'll be not discussing international cricket. We'll be bringing the cricket to Vancouver. What happens at UBC, and we'll be discussing a lot of the exciting stuff that's been happening over the past not just 1 but 2 years, I would say. So we'll start off. Firstly, Ranjan has been the president of the AMS Cricket Club for a while now, and he's recently decided to resign. And I've been the VP events. I'll start off with you. How has the experience been for being the president for the AMS Cricket Club?
It was great. I mean, I came into the club as VP events back in my second year, I think, and it was great. I mean, like you said, we were trying to bring cricket into Vancouver, into Canada. Cricket's always been a big part of, I think, both of our lives, even back home.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying to bring that here with us. And the club has been brilliant. I mean, got to really play and just interact with so many people who love the sport. So it's been great to have that sort of community with us here. We tried to increase the club's presence here, and my only goal was that people should know that there's a club here known as a cricket club, because that was the one thing I was lacking. That the presence of the club on campus was, I felt, not really strong. And so we worked on that, and I'm very glad that we were able to, make our presence stronger. I think a lot of people now know about the club, which is a great thing. But yeah, I decided to not continue because of some personal issues, personal reasons. It does get difficult, right? And we're trying to balance university life and personal life, social life, and with the club also it gets a little taxing sometimes. But nothing to take away from the experience itself. It was amazing. I would never trade it for anything else. I'm very glad it happened. What was your experience as VP events? Because I personally know that position can be, really tiring at times.
Yeah. No, I think my entire life at university has just been a big VP events. And everywhere I go, I'm VP events. No, but I think it's been a fantastic experience. I think I would only hold such a position because under your leadership, because I feel like VP events again is a very tiring position. I feel like, and I feel leadership up top needs to be supportive, and that's all that's been under your leadership. But I think it's a very rewarding position, especially when you see those events come to life. And I think with the goal of cricket being the main point to all these events has been amazing. But I'll go into like some of the things we've done, throughout our tenure. And starting off with, it's kind of meta, but we'll talk about the podcast in the podcast.
Exactly.
Viewers with something new.
The podcast, I think towards the end of my VP events sort of tenure, I knew that the podcast was something that we could explore. I was looking for someone who was, as passionate to start this venture. I asked you, the first response I heard was yes, let's do this. So I couldn't be more grateful to you for that. Because I'm someone who loves to talk about the sport, even though I have no idea what I'm talking about sometimes. But I really wanted to start the podcast. I didn't do it for viewership, but we did this for the love of the sport, really.
Right.
And we've done it for 10 episodes now. It's been great, opportunity for just rant about RCB, rant about Indian cricket. And it's been great fun. What do you think about the podcast so far? What's been the highlight, I guess? And even because we did it over Zoom as well, so what was that experience like?
I think, for viewers, of course, it's not for views. you can tell if you're watching this, and we're grateful.
We're very grateful.
I think where I lack in the field, I think I compensate with my words.
Both of us.
And I think this has been a great medium because I feel like I know a lot about the sport, and somewhere the passion needs to come out, and I think this is a great avenue for it. Zoom podcasts were obviously a different experience. Making sure it's recording, making sure the mics are on. How you edited those was just a feat of magic. But I think this podcast has really added to that uniqueness of a university cricket club, especially because now the university cricket clubs, at least in Canada, I'm aware of, have podcasts.
Exactly.
So I think it adds to more engagement. Some of our viewers, comment, and people around the university sometimes recognize us through the podcast. So
Exactly.
that's been just an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Now, getting to some of the other stuff. So we mentioned this previously as well in one of the podcasts where the Last Man Stands University League Championship had happened, and UBC had won the first ever edition of it. How do you feel, and what was your kind of reaction to it at the time, and how did you feel of the entire experience?
It was a big achievement. I think probably one of the biggest achievements we've had as a club this year. I think this was early in the summer. I think we played a few games here and there.
Yeah.
Under some other name. But I didn't get to play the games itself, but I was at home, following up the scores, posting them on our social media. So that whole sort of summer going into the University League was a big event for us, and then going into the final with SFU, it was a big deal for us. It's a big club from their end as well. SFU Cricket Club is a big club. I think they started before us as well.
Exactly.
And University League, where every single university, most universities across BC, across Canada and other leagues as well, but this one I think it was only BC. But it was a big deal for us, and that's why I think it meant so much. I think all of the UBC community were at the SRC indoors game that we were having, and keeping up with the score. And as soon as found out that we won, everyone just erupted, we celebrated.
Exactly.
So it was a special feeling. It was fun to be a part of, and like I said, huge props to Pranav Saragi. I've been saying that I think across meetings I've said that to him personally as well, because I know it's not easy to organize. It's not easy to gather the entire team for every single game, and did that the entire season. So props to him. I don't know how he did it, but huge achievement for him and for the club as well.
Yeah, and the best part is the absolute domination of the club.
Exactly.
It's not 14 games, 13 wins.
Yeah.
That's not even IPL teams have that ratio. I won't diss RCB here, but
great opportunity.
But no, it's been absolute domination.
Yeah.
Now that's on the field domination. Now let's get to some off the field domination, and this time you got to play in it. A big part. UBC Cricket Club was fortunate enough and very grateful to CBC Radio Vancouver to invite us to not just one but 4 live interviews discussing the Olympics and the Cricket World Cup. So normally, as a cricket lover from China, I don't expect to be invited to radio.
Exactly.
What was your experience?
It was very strange because I received an email one day, randomly. It was I think all caps.
Yeah.
It said Alison Cole, and I was like, who's this person? Who is the CBC?
Who are you?
Who are you exactly? And then I think at that point, we didn't get such invites from anyone or for anything, And I think I asked you, do you think it's a scam? Do you think this is genuine?
Yeah.
I did some research, I looked online and this is real. This could be real. So I replied to the email, not expecting much, but then when we got the call back, I was very surprised. I told my parents, they were like, the CBC called you, it's a big deal. And like you said, our club is very young, relatively young, and for us to be called to CBCs, it's a huge deal. And again, 4 interviews, like you said, it's crazy. And 2 of them were from Victoria calling in, and they even invited us to go to Victoria and do it in person. It's crazy.
And I think that's just amazing that Canada is embracing the sport to such a level where they invited especially youth club to talk about Olympics and the Cricket World Cup itself. Sure, they botched up a few of the statistics and they botched up a few of the names of the players, including mine. But you can catch me on CBC with the name Akshat Ranjan.
Nice. What was the experience? It was a completely different experience though, because we could hear our own voice in the headphones. But that for the first interview we did, I was so taken aback. It took me some time to get adjusted to that, the whole setting and everything.
It is crazy. It is insane how they do it, and it's very dynamic. You'd expect, they sit, they have coffee chat, but it's very fast paced. The next segment has to come on.
Exactly.
So I think that entire experience, gave me greater appreciation of how they do it on a daily basis. Every other day, I have a sore throat. How they do it is just fascinating. But yes, let's get back to some more cricket. We had some new initiative ideas this year. Now, the origins of the initiative ideas was the overcrowding of cricket, which was amazing.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
But we had the first year's tournament, the juniors tournament, So, what are your thoughts? As first years, we remember our experience at UBC.
Yeah.
We kind of outsourced our own cricket equipment. We had one cricket bat and one cricket ball respectively, and we used a bat cover as stumps in our first year. Days of struggle, viewers.
It reminds you of Hamare Zamane mein things used to be different.
Like back in those days, But so, what do you think? Like as a new incoming student, their experience must have been so much different. So, like, how do you feel these tournaments help out?
Yeah, I mean, it was exactly that, right? Like trying not to repeat what we did, what the club did in our first year.
Yeah.
And I think you took that. I remember you and I think it was our marketing team at that time.
Yeah.
Went to the field with thinking of different ideas. How do you fix this problem of overcrowding? It's a good problem to have,
exactly.
But we still have to solve it somehow.
It's like India's selection problem. Ajit, you relate?
Exactly, it's a good problem to have, but we had to come up with a solution. I think it was one of you. I think it was you who said, "Let's do a juniors cup this coming Saturday." It was a very quick turnaround, but we managed to pull off not only just the first tournament, but a juniors tournament the next week as well.
Exactly.
So yeah, first year, second years got to play, and I think it was a great move because it also gave us the opportunity to look out for who's coming up, who we had to look out for, for our LMS teams and other teams as well.
Right.
So great initiative not only for them but also for the club in general. Increase engagement, got a lot of members through that as well. So yeah, as a club, it was great that we started off very early. It was like early September, I remember.
Yeah.
So it was very, very good from club point of view as well. And also like talking about new initiatives, I think we also talked about how do we engage women cricket at UBC, how do we embrace that, because again that's something that the club did not really achieve in the past years. We did have a women's representative, but I felt like instead of having someone just for the sake of it, we should really embrace the women's cricket in general. So we tried to do a women's cricket tournament. How was that experience? I know the engagement wasn't as high as we hoped it would be, but I think it was a good starting point. So how do you think that initiative went, and where do you see that going in the future?
I think the women's cricket tournament was absolutely fantastic. Like whatever the turnaround was at that point in time, unfortunately, because it's university life, it's difficult to balance out such commitments. But I think it's a great initiative. I think one of my personal goals at VP Events was to even organize a mixed gender cricket tournament to make it more inclusive, because with cricket, the passion of the sport often creates this seclusion, and it makes it difficult for others to enter. It's the good and bad of the sport as well. But I feel with women's cricket, I definitely think at UBC itself and across Vancouver, there's great scope.
For sure.
And like getting more involved, even creating a WPL at UBC will be something that will be absolutely amazing.
Exactly.
But talking about PL,
that was a great transition.
Thank you. Let's talk about the UBC PL. For viewers that are not aware, it is this absolute mega festival that happens at UBC with absolutely mirroring the actual IPL. I would say we get more viewers. I would say we get more viewers. 2 UBC PLs have happened. 2 seasons RCB is not won. They've gotten in the final. We've had a El Clasico final.
Twice.
RCB versus CSK. CSK has won both finals. It's a CSK PL at this point. But what are your thoughts? The entire format, like, what do you like? What do you dislike?
It was great. I mean, again, like it was something that we wanted to do ever since I think the year started. We were looking at PL sort of tournament where we changed the names of the teams to something UBC specific. So like Chap and Super King. Going into the final, first season as a captain, it was an amazing sort of idea. Firstly to have this tournament, but then the experience itself was great, and having an option for the tournaments as well. Making your own teams. It was amazing. But talking about auctions and talking about captaincy, you were the vice captain of KKR, a team that has not won a single game in the PL. That I found that out recently. That's a shocking fact. Like KKR hasn't won a single game. And what do you put that down to?
Look, I think we've always had the team.
Right.
Korbo, Lorbo, Nitbo. We've always had the spirit. We've been very unlucky with our, I can't speak to the first season.
Yeah.
I was part of a better franchise. I was part of LSG.
Right.
Still didn't manage to qualify for the finals, but
At least won a game.
at least won a game.
Yeah.
But with KKR, I think this season at least, I think we went wrong with the auction, and I think just the dynamics of it. We made a very well-known player go unsold, and
Yeah.
all the teams started going for. Our auction prices are crazy. We have players going for 30 crores, 23 crores.
Yeah.
Stark's record seems like a joke. But I think, that's been going on. But I am sure, whichever team I play for next season, if it's KKR, I'm sure we're going to win a game. I'm sure, KKR is yet to perform. I'm sure if Shah Rukh Khan makes an appearance, or Gauti, comes in a coaching staff, maybe we can win.
Maybe.
But I think that's what went wrong. But let's go with what went right. Captain Super Kings, 2 back-to-back seasons, and it's not even where it's a close fight. Sure. For the RCB, Royal Challengers Buchanan, you might argue, if there was a final in the first season, we would have won.
We would have.
There we go.
We would have.
But with a hand on my heart,
Right.
I honestly say Captain Super Kings have been absolutely dominant.
Yeah.
They've been led by a brilliant leader
Yes.
who's leading UBC into major tournaments. So what do you think has gone right? Is it the auction? Is it the way they play?
I think it's the auction. I think it's the clarity with which they go into the auction thinking, okay, we're going to get this one player,
Yeah.
and then we're going to make a team around that. Because again, it's a 6-over game, so I think they're pretty smart with that. They just need 2 or 3 main players,
Yeah.
and then they can, fit in a few other players who can do a bit of both, a bit of the fielding as well. So it's the auction. First season they went for Utkarsh Dhawan, and he turned the game around every single time he came on. And if he didn't perform, then Aseem Arora was there. If he didn't perform, the captain was there. So I think these 2 or 3 players they pick up do wonders for them. Even this time they had somebody like Kinchit with the ball, and they bought Aseem back for that ridiculous price. So again, this is auction sort of clarity that Good just goes in with, and props to him. He's won it twice. It's the CSK PL now, like he says. So he can be cocky after the tournament.
Be low-key during the auction and be cocky after the tournament.
But I think we'll get them back next year. We now know what their sort of mentality is with the auction, and we'll pay more attention to that. We'll not let them slip away.
For sure. And that's from like a player's point of view. But like, what do you feel like as an organizer's point of view? Like, is it rewarding the process? I do know UBCPL does add a lot of stress in terms of organizing. But like from an organizer's point of view, like what do you look for in these kind of events?
It's a completely different experience as an organizer. It's a good question because it's tough to sometimes enjoy it as a player, and that's something that I'm looking forward to this year as well. I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't continue. Like I want to enjoy cricket as a player. And you're right. The organizing bit can be very stressful at times. To think about a lot of things like the light doesn't have to go out. Hopefully it won't go out, and then booking it. Whether it will get the ground or not, whether it will bounce or not, and then taping the ball itself. All the sort of the small details that you have to think about.
Right.
It can be stressful, and I'm someone who really likes to perfect every single detail and not leave it to chance, because I just get to all the anxiety. Okay, what if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong?
Right.
So from an organizer's point of view, that can be very, very stressful. But that's what makes it special. That's what makes it rewarding, right? At the end, if you put in so much effort into it and it comes out well, if people enjoy it, and all these tournaments we've had, and we'll talk about the All-Stars as well. All these tournaments have been so successful that people have gone out and said that was a special initiative, that was a very enjoyable experience. That's all that matters at the end, and so you sort of forget the struggle and it becomes very rewarding. So I'm sure that must have been the same experience for you.
Absolutely. I think you're 100% right on that. Like having that perfectionist aim is what is like important, because if at the end of the tournament I get feedback that I see joy in these people's faces, like cricket here and winning a tape ball tournament maybe doesn't have value or significance in international scale, right? No Virat Kohli is watching our reels. Maybe you are, maybe. But but I think just to like give them that happiness that they're not having a sleepless night because they're that happy of winning something, and they can go home and show to their families, to their friends, and almost have bragging rights. I think that's just the rewarding part of it. But I'll come to the other major tournament that we've been having, So the way you organize the tournaments is just like an all-star. And now you have the All-Stars tournament.
Right.
We've had 2 seasons,
Uh-huh.
right? You've been part of winning sides in both seasons. That's something you've won, and so. But how does it feel like winning? As a RCB fan yourself, you don't have much of the experience.
True.
But how do you feel winning? In the first edition, Eshaan Soni had 84 of 35. Go check it out on our Insta.
Yeah.
One of the craziest knock I've ever seen. Higher than Kohli's strike rate combined
Throughout the season.
throughout the season. But how do you feel of the general experience in that specific innings?
Yeah, I mean, All Stars was great because I think it was right after a PL, the first one at least.
Yeah.
And the pressure sort of reduced significantly because it went down from a 32-player tournament to maybe 16 or 18, and I don't remember the exact number of players, but again, like the pressure sort of went down. And so I think from an organizer's point of view, because the stress went down, as a player, I could really focus on the game and how do you win the innings and stuff like that. So that innings, I don't know what happened personally. I remember like going into the game thinking I don't feel fully like in this, I don't feel the flow. Normally I'm like, okay, today is my day.
Yeah.
That day I wasn't feeling that. I was like, I don't feel like I can score here. It was very cold. I remember it was freezing cold that day.
Yeah.
And I got hit on the ankle. I think off stage bowled a beautiful yorker. I hit myself with a bat and something switched. And I've never batted like that in my life. So I don't know what happened. I'll be very honest. But I was stepping out to Tandon, I was stepping out to everyone. I was like, I look back at the reel, I was like, I don't think I've ever batted like that in my life. And it's just one of those like 2016 like Kohli what he had in this out of character for him as well.
Yeah.
It was completely out of character. I don't think I'll ever go to that sort of level ever again. Maybe not. But that was like completely out of character for me. But that tournament, otherwise as well, we had an over with 6 sixes in an over.
Right.
We had a hat trick in that tournament as well. We had a very thrilling finish in that tournament. I remember.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't end up being recorded on the live.
Yeah.
It was amazing to watch that tournament as a spectator. Talking about that whole sort of tournament, and because we saw these magnificent sort of records being broken one after the other.
Yeah, and I think the All-Stars tournament, for context, it is the combination of the best of the lot, best of the lot of players at UBC, and always brings exciting action because you have these 2 star-studded teams, right? And the 6 sixes, it's difficult to. Sure, date ball it is a bit easier, but it's still difficult to do it 6 consecutive times. And then in that first tournament, despite the 6 sixes, a 140 in 10 overs kind of chase, and still the chasing team managed to do it. That is just amazing. And of course, Dino, our professor, with the hat trick. I was the
third wicket
of the hat trick. Forever embarrassment.
I like how he just went for the big shot as well, like didn't try to defend it. I love the intent.
I am Thala for more than one reason. Either it's 6 or it's out.
Nice.
But I think even the second edition was nothing short of amazing.
Yeah.
It was 1-1 going into the final. First game was almost a replica of the initial first tournament. First game, absolute domination by one team. Second game, the other team fought back, in which you won man of the match. But I was umpiring the entire game, and it was a different experience for me. But like, what was your experience being part of that team that came back and eventually won the third game?
It was crazy. I think the venue changed. It went to a bigger baseball sort of stadium.
Yeah.
So obviously the boundary sort of went down. The number 50s went down. But the sort of thrill aspect of it or the fun of it never went down at all. I think it went up, in fact.
Yeah.
Because the quality was still at the top. We talked about BBC's best players coming together.
Yeah.
And it was so like it was very surprising the fact that it was almost mirroring the first tournament, like you said. I think the second team coming back in the second game, I was very surprised when I won man of the match because I was like, wait, how? Because I scored some 20 odd. But us coming back in the second game and then third game as well, Gurjas and Kinchit finishing off the game. It was crazy. I think we chased 30. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was around 36 of the final 7 or 8 balls.
Yes.
It was crazy. It was very crazy, and I loved how Gurjas captained all 3 games. He told us just to have fun, not to think about the result at all. And sort of pep talk he gave in the second game was amazing. Just like because we lost the first game pretty badly. So he sort of pumped us up in the second game, thinking we're not going to let this go away. And also because it was called the President's 9, which is the Treasurer's 9. That sort of aspect also came in.
You're very smart.
Very smart. Very, very unique. And it was great. It was great. It must have been slightly stressful for you as an umpire, trying to figure out the timing and everything.
Yeah.
But what was the experience?
I mean, look, I got the best seat in the house. I experienced everything, and the interesting thing was the 6-6s happened between Nishant and Kinchit.
Yeah.
And even in this tournament, Nishant and Kinchit was the matchup.
Exactly,
So I think that's
exactly.
what the All Stars tournament brings.
Yeah.
And not to mention Aseem Arora's contribution in the entire tournament. That was like a brilliant innings in the third game. Honestly, it was looking like a game that the other team, the Treasurers 9 took, but the Presidents 9, showing why they're the bosses.
That's the best innings I've ever watched in a tape ball game.
Oh,
I
definitely.
told him after the game, I said that was the best innings I've watched.
Yeah.
Just hitting bowlers with ease, and it's not a small boundary, by the way. It's like
big,
huge boundary, especially
Yeah.
over mid wicket at the baseball stadium. It was amazing to watch, especially even as as the opposition. That was amazing.
But talking about things to watch.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our watch parties.
Yeah.
So, for context, UBC had a campaign throughout the World Cup, and we've been having this through multiple World Cups. We see India through their heartbreaks, at World Cups. We aim to organize these watch parties for 50 World Cups and T20 World Cups for respective teams, but more so the demand is for the Indian and the more Asian teams, and accordingly we've organized watch parties. How has that experience been? We've talked about the World Cup, but organizing such watch parties, how's that experience been?
It was one of the most memorable experiences, both for the right and the wrong reasons. But I think we started off organizing very small scale screenings in the other room, the smaller room.
Yeah.
And so that sort of gave us the experience of what is it like to organize screenings and what goes into it.
Yeah.
But then the World Cup came, and we sort of decided to expand the scale of it.
Yeah.
And I think we collaborated with Utsav as well for those screenings as well. But the scale went up, and we did not know what was coming. I think that's the fun of it, right?
Yeah.
I think we organized. The first one was I think against
India Pakistan.
That was the first one. Okay, that was a crazy event.
That
I remember the day where because there was no space to even enter the room at one point.
Yeah.
It was packed, and I think we had taken over 2 or 3 rooms.
Yeah.
I think for that one.
Yeah.
The final was even crazy. I'm gonna ask you about that because you had a very different experience for that. But I think for that one we had 6 or 7 rooms, and all of them were packed.
Yeah.
We had around 500, 600, even more maybe. Going in and out, and the timings are crazier.
Yeah, I swear in the middle of November there was hot Indian summer happening in those rooms.
Yeah.
They were that packed. For just getting from the start of the room to the end of the room to fix the projector, it would take you maybe 5 minutes. Sorry, organizer coming through. But I think it was amazing to see, maybe not many people play cricket, but to just witness so many people watch cricket and being part of the organizing. Again, it's a very rewarding process because at the end of it, sure, you do have to clean those rooms, and that's another story.
Yeah.
But I think just to see people going back happy, being appreciative that such an event occurs, people coming up to you and saying thank you for organizing this event. So I think that just is the rewarding part of it.
It makes it worth it.
Exactly. With the semi-final, you as a organizer and as a viewer, how's that experience? Because I remember you getting emotional and everything regarding it. So how's that experience?
Yeah, I mean, as an organizer, it always starts off being difficult. It starts off, okay, how do we organize the rooms, setting up the chairs, once people start coming in. But I think towards the end, when everything sort of settles down, a lot of people leave also because again, it's from 12 to 7. So not a lot of people stay back. Some of them do, and credit to them, including us.
Yeah.
But I think it did get emotional towards the end when sort of Kohli made the 100 and the celebration with I think Sachin was there, Anushka was there.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad, and as soon as Anushka's photo came up, I was like, okay, no, this is getting too much, and it was because it was multiple factors coming in, right? It was such a big event, and we were organizing it and watching it from the outside as well. All those factors sort of came in. It was an amazing moment, something that I'll probably never forget. Made UBC very special for me. Just that match, and because also we won that game. That was the last game we won in that World Cup campaign. So it was great fun. And what was the final? Because you had a very interesting experience, like I talked about.
So I spent the initial day of the final in the hospital.
And that's not because of the heartbreak. That's because of the injury you had.
So of course, knowing me and the great cricketer I am, I injured myself playing some tape ball cricket, gully Punjabi style. Absolutely smashed, milled my ankle. It was a good shot. I think the echo around the stadium and later on inside my head came through.
Nice.
But thanks to the General Hospital at Broadway, shout out. If you are listening, I don't know why, but I think spent a few hours there. And the funny thing was throughout the time there, of course I was in pain, but I think I was more worried about like the screening because like I've been waiting. Like India's gotten to final.
Yeah.
It's like all the factors combined, the perfect occasion. India, Australia. We've been talking so much about India, Australia on the podcast. That happens in the finals happening at UBC, you know. And like as VP events, I was like kind of like shit. This is the only day I shouldn't have missed. And eventually my FOMO got to me, and I showed up to the event, you know, and just to see the level of crowd, that was another extreme. You were there in the initial part, so like how was that? Organizing the assigning rooms. I remember you had to get all hands on board.
Yeah, firstly, credit to you for coming back. I did not. I told you to stay at the hospital or go back home, take rest. But no, you're like, I have to attend this. You came limping in. I was very like credit to you for making it. But I think we had a few people who sort of unofficially helped us out. And you know, very grateful for them as well for the support because we needed all hands on board, like I said. We needed all the support we could get. It was crazy. Like I said, I think we had 6-7 rooms across the venue, and we sort of filled all of them out. We sort of had to assign each room, like you go there, you go there. It was crazy, but again, like I said, that's what makes it special. And when you look back and say that's what we achieved, that's what we did. It was amazing. I mean, you know, it was sad that the result didn't go away. It would have made the event even more special. But regardless of all of that, it was still a very special event to be part of, to organize, you know, to offer to the UBC community. It's an amazing sort of event. But yeah, talking about, you know, giving back to the community and sort of engaging the UBC community. One of the things I really wanted to focus on was the social media this year, and because that's something that I thought we were seriously lacking in, especially real content and, you know, just putting out content regularly is something that we did not do last year or you know, the year before that. So that's something that I wanted to work on. We started off making some amazing posts because we were doing so many events that sort of naturally meant that we had to post more. I think it's a great thing for social media as well. And then around December, January, I felt like okay, we could do more here. You know, we could, you know, achieve newer heights, especially with real content. And we were sitting at home in the summer making cricket reel edits myself, and they were not good. I'll be very honest, they were not good at all.
The Ashes one got a few views.
It did, views wise it was amazing. Views wise it was amazing, but again, quality wise I'm not sure. But that's where I knew we had to go. You know, we had to go in that direction. And so in around December, January, I was like, this is what we need to do for the club's in marketing at least. So we hired Sakshi, and she's been incredible. You know, she really turned the entire marketing scene around. We hired new people in as well, and that's what I think changed the game for us. I think we got 3 reels to 15,000 plays. And talking about a ridiculous number, I even mentioned in the AGM as well, our annual general meeting, we had a 2,317% increase in peak accounts reach.
That's why that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense at all.
That's crazy.
It's ridiculous, and that's what it shows you the kind of growth we've had in terms of social media reach as well. And we increased followers and all that sort of stuff. I don't really look at numbers, you know, that seriously, and we've had some TOK experience with that as well. The stats sometimes lie. But again, it gives you some sort of idea about how your growth has been. It's amazing. It's amazing to watch them work as a team.
And it's been such a pinnacle step into our development, because I feel like with the events and the people and the quality of cricket, I think we have that covered. But I think just showing it out there to that potential, you know, freshmen that might be coming to UBC, to show them that there's cricket at UBC. Don't you worry about that. There's guaranteed cricket at UBC, and the quality. Like I wouldn't be, if I were another person, you know, like not part of UBC cricket, I would imagine this is done by some professional league. And it has really been that good. So credit to Sakshi and the entire team that has been involved, you know, dedicated. You know, there's Ady as well, who's been involved, shooting the podcast, shooting the scenes as well. So I think it's been amazing for the amount of effort that's been gone in. Cold, hot, regardless of condition, match is boring or not, it doesn't matter, they've been there. So I think that's been something that's been amazing. Talking about the uprise, there's also been a few struggles, few hurdles on the way. Due to safety concerns, obviously we've not been allowed to play a lot of cricket at BBC itself, but now we've gone to off-campus avenues. So how's that been as an experience? We've shifted more to leather ball cricket. So as president, how do you face such a issue popping up?
I think this started around December, January. I think that sort of period. And in hindsight, I look back at it and think, okay, no sort of success comes without failure, and that was sort of the bump in the road for us. And fair enough. I think we had to face something like that to grow as a club. So we challenged as a club as well. So it really taught us a lot, and the way we responded to it was brilliant. And I'll talk about it in a second. But we're talking about the struggle itself. Let's give some context. So we weren't allowed because of the safety issue to play on campus, and fair enough. They had the reasons, and we get that we weren't booking the fields, all the time, and we were sort of told to not play, and we sort of abided by all the rules and said, okay, we'll stop playing here. Which meant that we had to sort of look at other avenues because we couldn't afford to pay for a permit every single time we wanted to play on campus. Regardless of all the view we have of whether UBC students should be allowed to play at their own campus or not, regardless of all of that, we still had to respond as a club. And so the solution came up of a Preseason Drop-In, and this happened pretty recently, but we decided to have a leather ball sort of series of games off campus, and it was amazing, not only for cricket at UBC but even financially, for the club's growth and just for the future itself. Otherwise the club could have easily died at that point. If there's no cricket at UBC, there's no club at UBC. But we said no, we're going to fight against this in our own way. And we went off campus. We had some amazing games, even those were incredible in their own way. Thrilling ends and some amazing innings, amazing bowling, amazing catches as well. I think we sort of have posted all the scoreboards on our highlights as well if you want to check it out. Some amazing games we got to see, and we got to really grow the leather ball scene at UBC as well. People have now got the interest to play in the university league. That's coming up. Maybe cover it in our future episodes, I don't know, but that's coming up as well. So we'll have a lot of UBC presence at that league because of maybe the preseason drop-in. So amazing for the club, and amazing to have this sort of leather ball culture now growing because of a challenge we
and I think that's the highlight of the experience in the amount of time we've been in leadership. Because until the World Cup, we were riding an amazing high. Cricket Club was everywhere. We had CBC, we had all our marketing. But I think through that challenge, we felt that as our responsibility, because people used to come up to me because playing at UBC was very regular, almost weekly, and for a lot of the people it was like that one source every week of fun, in the university life. So they used to come up to me, and I used to feel the guilt. Somewhere inside me, I used to feel the guilt that, I'm responsible for this. And because of that, I think Preseason Drop-In has been a gold mine of a decision. We found some amazing talents with the leather ball, people, as you said. But now, moving forward, now that we're not officially in status with the leadership, and we wish nothing but the best to the current leadership. They're already growing the club into avenues which we always desired to be, and I hope they go even further. But moving forward, what are your plans with your involvement in the club and your involvement generally with cricket?
Like you said, nothing but the best wishes to the new team coming in. We stepped on because, at least for me, it was the fact that I couldn't contribute 100% every single time, so I felt like the club deserves more. And the new team coming in, I hope nothing but the best. Like I said, I hope that they'll give their full, and I'm sure that they will. The plan is to continue the podcast. Plan is to still be maintained to the club, still be connected to the club in some way. Still talk about the sport, still rant about RCB, still come on here and give talk about CSK and how bad they are. The plan is that. The plan will always be that. We'll see how far this goes. I'm not sure about that, but for now it's stepping away from a bit of the responsibility, enjoy more as a player, enjoy more of other aspects of university in general, getting some time to do that. And I'm going to preface this again. I wish nothing but the best. I will keep supporting the new team in whatever way I can. What is your plan? Because I know that you'll still be connected to the club in some way or the other.
We'll see about. No.
Podcast will be.
With the podcast for sure.
Yes.
Because viewers, I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to give amazing zingers, like them or not.
One-liners are
one line. No, even though we're not in the driving seat, but I think this podcast has to remain because that passion has never died. And I think you're 100% right about that. Like from a non-organizer point of view, just as a player, I think it's going to be rejuvenate that passion for cricket. And I think with the podcast as well, grow into covering many different topics. This is a very unique episode on its own, kind of meta as well, talking about ourselves. But I think, that's been my plan, and hoping the podcast reaches other avenues. PGC, if you're listening in, this collaboration with us, Dan from Our Cricket. But yeah, that's been this podcast, this episode. We thank you again for watching. If you've gotten this far, this episode has been very special, and for us especially, because we're talking about cricket at UBC, and I hope this episode has encouraged you to explore cricket at UBC in Vancouver, in Canada in general, especially with the World T20 coming up. Thank you so much, Eshaan.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next episode. We'll talk about the IPL week.